So I started in wildland firefighting as a hotshot in Oregon on the Mount Hood National Forest when I was 20. And I had never seen a forest fire before. And prior to, well, around that time, things have changed since then, but most of the time, you weren't able to get on a hotshot crew unless you had spent several seasons on other types of crews, like an engine crew or something like that. And so I was kind of tossed into this world, just totally green, really, really, really green. But they put a drip torch in my hands after our initial training, and I fell in love with it. I mean, to be able to take fire and put it on the ground for a good purpose, and it's really exhilarating and fun. And of course, the camaraderie of these types of crews are really powerful. And you make good friendships, and you develop sort of bonds of trust that are really, really strong. And so I stayed hotshotting for another 6 years. And then my last season was as a water tender operator, so driving big water trucks. But during my time as a hotshot, we averaged, I think, 135 days out on wildfires throughout the country. So I fought fire in all of the Western states, in Canada, Alaska, and Florida as well. So I was able to see fire in all types of ecosystems, what they call wild and urban interface kind of scenarios, as well as like extremely remote fires where you get helicoptered in for an hour. So I got to see fire in all shapes, sizes, forms, and complexities, and I think that gave me sort of a nuanced understanding of fire. But as I was fighting fire and learning about how fire burned in ecosystems, I was also really kind of keying into the social side of fire and understanding, like, okay, some of these fires shouldn't be put out. Like, what are we doing here? I remember vividly my first season. At the end of my first season, there was this massive complex of fires in Northern California that we were on, and the fire that my crew was on was the smaller of the three large ones. And it was called the Fawn Fire. And we were sitting up on the ridge line, and the fire was just kind of doing its thing down in the basin. And I turned to my superintendent and I said, we shouldn't be here. This fire is doing nothing but good. It's just cleaning up the forest. And it was almost like the landscape was kind of craving fire. That's how it looked to me. And so I started to pursue that line of thinking, and eventually did a little bit of political ecology of wildland fire for my bachelor's degree, and then decided to pursue my master's degree, originally in environmental history of wildland fire, but I switched to wildland fire management and communications, and kind of became fascinated with the storytelling around fire and how to communicate fire in a good way so that we can sort of understand better about the fire, fire's role in the environment and that sort. So yeah, I've been on a lot of fire, and I've been in a lot of ember storms.
What did your supervisor say to you when you said that, like, we shouldn't be here?
I don't recall exactly, but every time I see her, almost every time I see her, she brings it up. She reminds me that from her perspective, I had this sort of like instinctual insight into the larger picture of fire. But she absolutely agrees. She, just from a philosophical standpoint, even though she spent her entire career in fire suppression, in fact, I think almost everyone who is a wildland firefighter who has spent longer than a season or two fighting fire recognize and understand that we need more of it under the right conditions, of course. And she's certainly an advocate of more fire, of the right kind of fire. Yeah. She was the first and at that time, only female superintendent of a hotshot crew in the country. So I was really lucky to be exposed to that.